Hi, welcome to Business Ethics. My name is Tom, and today we are going to delve into the main philosophical question of the course, but also one of the main philosophical frameworks for looking at the central question that we are investigating, which is what is a business, right? And to what extent do ethics play a fundamental or essential role in running a business? Um, the text we are going to be considering is the first chapter of, or first book of Plato's Republic. Plato is a famous philosopher, and the Republic is considered one of his greatest works. And Plato's teacher was Socrates, and Socrates is the main protagonist that he uses in this text. And Socrates really functions to voice Plato's own opinions. Now, in this chapter, we really see, I think, a good philosophical backing for the two main positions on this idea of what a business is. If you will recall, there are two main kind of views here, which one is a purpose first view of business, that a business really is essentially a matter of providing goods and services to others, right? So it's essentially kind of a matter of social responsibility. The alternative view is that um, business is really, which is called a profit first model, where business is really a matter of turning a profit, right? And you don't have much in the way of social responsibilities, and the purpose of that business is really secondary to turning a profit. Now, in this dialogue, um, I think Plato can be seen as really advocating for a purpose first view of business. And his main opponent here, Thrasymachus, can be seen as advocating for a profit first view. And this is in kind of like broad strokes. And they're really talking about what justice is, but there is definitely speaks exactly to this debate here. Now, Thrasymachus is the main protagonist of this entire book and really launches Plato out into his discussion of ethics in general. And Plato has more or less a fairly traditional view of ethics, one that resonates, I think, with us intuitively. He thinks that there is a universal sense of right and wrong that's out there. It's not dependent upon our opinions or our social norms or anything like this. There is really a sense of good, and that we need to seek that sense of good. And he advocates for a lot of the main virtues that we tend to endorse. So things like honesty and bravery and cooperation and helping others and all these kinds of things. Plato is going to endorse those things. But Thrasymachus comes on the scene and really levels a huge challenge to Plato, which is his definition of justice, which is justice is the advantage of the stronger, right? Well, what does that mean? Simply put, his view can be boiled down to a slogan, which I like to call "might is right." Right. So the idea is that what is right, our social norms, our sense of what's right and good, our laws, all these things are really based upon the interests of the people who are in power, right? Everyone, for Thrasymachus, everyone acts based on self-interest, and the people in power also do so. And the people in power make the rules, so they make the rules to suit their needs, right? This is the Thrasymachus view of ethics, and it's really a kind of fairly radical relativistic notion, or seemingly relativistic notion, that really there is no universal sense of right and wrong. Really, what life is all about is, looking out for number one, right? Looking out for yourself, acting out of your self-interest, and not doing so, you actually disadvantage yourself, right? And Thrasymachus comes up with all kinds of examples for this. It's really the idea that, everyone is, life is a competition, life is dog eat dog. And if you don't compete and you don't look out for yourself, you're going to lose out, right? And all the people who win in life are the people who are selfish, right? So this is a very rich thought about ethics. There's a lot of different facets to it, but when it comes down to business, it really exemplifies at a very fundamental level this idea of a profit first view of business, right? And this view is, endorsed pretty openly at times, because the idea is that the free market really runs on competition, right? And that it is essential that people, are driven by profit motive, right? Because this installs competition, and then this boosts innovation. This drives prices down for consumers because people are trying to get ahead, and they're cutting out the competition as much as possible, and that this kind of competitive nature is really fundamental to business. And we also oftentimes view businesses, when they're cutting corners or they're doing, down and dirty things to turn a profit, we tend to, oftentimes we say, well, they're a business, they're doing their job as a business owner, right? Person's just trying to get ahead, and what else can you expect of them, right? So I actually have just a little clip in this module that has some dude from Billions kind of ranting about this, about how being a billionaire, he's entitled to be that, and that the world needs him to be a billionaire in order to really function. And so that's kind of humorous, but it's also a lot of people really believe this, right? And so on the opposite end of this, Plato has some interesting arguments against Thrasymachus's position. So first of all, when Thrasymachus starts talking about the powerful with the advantage of the stronger, we want to know who the stronger is, and he mentions that it's rulers. And so Socrates starts to talk about the definition of a ruler, right? What is a ruler? And he says that, what a ruler's essential activity is to act out of the interest of that ruler's subjects, right? For Thrasymachus, he thinks a good ruler is someone who basically takes advantage of the people he rules over. And Socrates or Plato, argues that really someone who does that is not really being a ruler, right? And so he's leading into this idea that whatever your position is, whatever your craft is, this is the way he'll kind of put it, your craft is defined by doing whatever job is outlined by that craft, right? So a simpler version of this is what I like to call the shoemaker argument, right? And it's a pretty simple question. What does a shoemaker do? Right? It's not a trick question. The answer for Plato is a shoemaker makes shoes, right? Now, an alternative answer to this is that a shoemaker makes money, right? That's what a shoemaker does, makes shoes, sells them, and gets paid for it. The idea here is that if a shoemaker has that as making money as his or her primary aim, they're going to make crappy shoes, right? Because they'll be cutting corners, they'll be using less good quality materials, and so on and so forth. They'll always have their eyes on the dollars, and their craft will suffer, right? Conversely, if the shoemaker focuses on making shoes well, then that shoemaker will probably sell a lot of shoes, right? They'll do their craft well, and as a result, they make money. So if you put the purpose above the profit, then it seems like the profit flows, right? Whereas if you put the profit above the purpose, then your purpose crumbles and your profit also crumbles, right? This is kind of like a significant argument for the purpose first model of um, business, right? And the last argument that I will mention in this video, and consult the notes I have, but is this idea of honor among thieves that Socrates talks about. And the idea here is that even for people who are doing bad things, like, I don't know, a bank heist or something like this, there has to be a certain amount of honor and virtue amongst them in order to be successful at robbing that bank, right? There has to be a certain amount of cooperation, consideration, and thoughtfulness of the other people, and self-sacrifice, right? You need to play a certain role. And so here, the idea is that you have to put the virtues in place. You have to put a certain sense of ethical right in place in order to, and a certain sense of cooperation in order to even do a bad thing, right? And I think, this speaks to business because business is interesting, even if you are very profit motivated. You are also steeped in a arena of cooperation, right? You have all kinds of stakeholders. You have investors, you have employees, you have customers, you have all these kinds of social relations in place that seem to make it possible for you to get ahead. And so those are some things to think about and kind of start to break down this idea of profit versus purpose, and how to think about this in more of a kind of logical or philosophical register, right? And we'll continue talking about this as we go forward, but I hope you enjoy the Republic and the little bit that we'll read, and I look forward to talking about this more with you all. Okay, thanks.